What's up? Welcome back to my channel, the best place for hardworking millennials to bring positive change to their careers. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot about is that I can't find my career path because I have no passion. And that's the problem I'm going to be tackling in this video. So make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell to receive regular updates on all things related to career change. Also, join my Facebook group called Career Change Advice, where you can chat with like-minded people who are interested in making their careers work for them and not the other way around. Hi, I'm Dr. John Tam, and I'm all about helping people bring positive change in their careers. So in this video, I'm going to break it down for you on how to find your career in your 20s when you have no passion. So without further ado, let's get started. Step one, you have to understand what passion is. And I'm going to get into a little bit of biochemistry here. Passion is basically, you can break it down to several things. The nice neurotransmitters, which would be dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. Now, dopamine is essentially the creativity and exploration hormone and neurotransmitter. It's the, when people go to the casino and there's a cha-ching and all the rings and ding-a-lings and all that stuff, or when you're playing video games and your video game, you open a treasure box and it's like ta-da, right? There's awesome stuff, confetti and all that stimulates your dopamine system, your dopaminergic system. And basically it's what helps you explore and what keeps you going and looking and binging and looking for the next thing. Now, back in the day, and I'm talking about way back when, before the internet and all the social media stuff started blowing up. Back in the day, people generated dopamine by creating and by applying their skills to do something. And over time, they get better at it. They create. So for example, woodworking, they make a box and like, hey, I'm really good at making boxes. I make more boxes. And that's what creates dopamine. Nowadays, we get a lot of cheap hits in dopamine. So social media scrolling, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, playing video games, right? I'm not against playing video games, binging on Netflix. A lot of these things give you a dopamine hit, right? Porn's another big one. And essentially what that does is it kind of confuses your brain that you're getting all your dopamine by doing things that excite you, but it doesn't really develop a skill or creativity, at least one that can be monetized, unless you're a crazy gamer and you're able to make a living off Twitch, but that's something else. So that's dopamine. Another thing is oxytocin, which is essentially the social bond hormone. It's what's generated when you sing in a choir and everyone's in harmony and everyone is feeling awesome. It's also a spike that you get when you do something like karaoke, right? That's why singing is so cathartic. It feels so good. And sex generates a lot of oxytocin as well. Anything that skin contact, in Korea we call it skinship, right? All of that creates a lot of oxytocin, and that's also highly motivating as well because it's so comforting. The third hormone neurotransmitter is serotonin, and serotonin is sometimes called the happy chemical, which is generated where there are occasions that allow you to puff up your chest, and if you hit the game-winning shot in a basketball game, you will puff up your chest, right? And you'll be like, yeah, beat your chest and so on. Those would all be tapping into your serotonergic system. So you get that when you win a game or you excel in competition. There's a lot more biochemistry involved in what sparks passion, but essentially these three are the more popular ones that people talk about because they actually map directly into your intrinsic motivation system. So one of the best research out there for intrinsic motivation, which is stuff that motivates you internally. You don't need people to pay you. You'll actually do it yourself because you love it. It maintains that intrinsic motivation is based on competence, autonomy, and relatedness. And that actually breaks out to the acronym of CAR, right? Takes you from one place to another. And when you map that to the three hormones / neurotransmitters that I listed out earlier, serotonin is basically about competence, because with competence, you win more, and with more winning, you are more energetic and more passionate and just feel better about it, right? Autonomy is mapped with the dopamine, right? You are able to pursue what you want to pursue, and that's the dopaminergic system, where you're able to explore what you want to explore. And the last one is oxytocin, which is mapped to relatedness, relationships, and how being in a community of people and doing rituals together, and goes back to my PhD research, but a ritual is basically anything that a group of people do together. When you are doing these things together, you create community, and that's what sparks passion. So when we're talking about passion, it needs to be fulfilling all three facets of intrinsic motivation. And I talk much more about this topic in depth in a playlist over here called the Playlist of Intrinsic Motivation. It's an oldie but a goodie, right? It was also made back when I was still talking to parents more, so you can check it out with that taken in context. But the science of motivation doesn't really change. What's motivating also depends on large part on your personality. So you can definitely take a free personality test in the description below to find different characteristics of a career that is a good fit for your personality. So having said that, now we know exactly what a passion is. Passion is something that sparks competence, autonomy, and relatedness, and we also talked about the chemistry behind that. Step two is creating a list of skills that you have and also the skills that you want to learn. So what that means is to literally sit down and hammer out a list of skills that you currently have that checks all three boxes of competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Or perhaps it only checks out a couple of these boxes, but one is missing. So for example, you may be in a community of software developers and you're good at what you do, but maybe you're lacking in the autonomy aspect to determine your own projects on which way your career is going. And so in that case then, the question is this something that you can address with a small tweak? Is this something that your workplace can accommodate for you, right? And that's one of the small fixes, right? By adapting the workplace to you, so you don't have to do a full-out career change or whatnot. Another thing that you could do is determine what skills you want to explore more, and make sure you do research on whether that particular industry is going to grow or not, where that skill is demanded. Also, don't dismiss your skills lightly. So for example, a decade ago, very few people thought that working full-time on your YouTube channel was going to be a profitable business, but look at YouTube nowadays, right? You're here watching and it's still growing. So you gotta be aware that there are soft skills and hard skills that are out there, and the job market is quickly changing on them. So specifically, research has shown that soft skills are appreciating in value, especially the higher you go up in the workplace hierarchy. And you can check out the Ultimate Soft Skills playlist that I've put together that outlines everything you know about soft skills in the near future. So step two is to map out your hard skills and soft skills, and we'll come back to this later on. Step three, it's to identify what life you want to live. Now that you've taken an inventory of the skills that you have, you need to figure out how you want to live your life. Maybe you want to live the grind and hustle life that can, essentially lead you to clock 80-hour work weeks. Or maybe you want to have more of a work-life balance and use your career as a means to support your hobbies. Or maybe you have kids and you just want stability. Everyone is different. But essentially, by mapping out what you want and setting out what's the good life for you is super important. The key is this: you can't look at Instagram and see someone who's living the good life and you feel that they're living the good life, but you don't understand the amount of work behind that or the things that they have to do to live that life. And maybe that will make you unhappy. So sorting out these priorities is super important. And also understand that these priorities will change, right? And in life stage research in sociology, a typical life stage would be someone in their 20s would be, yeah, I'm trying to find my career path, I'm trying to live the grind and hustle life, pay my dues, and build that experience. And by your 30s, you may be looking into getting married, building a family, perhaps taking a mortgage, and so on. By your 40s, your kids would be grown up and you might want to go back to the work, or you might want to do a career change, and it's called a midlife crisis for a reason. And that's why you got to understand that at each stage of your life, you are going to recalibrate this. You're going to sort out what's important for you at that point in time, and perhaps even look 5 or 10 years down the road, because you need to sort out your priorities, and then you align your work to that. And I talk a lot more about this in an older video here, so check it out in the cards above. So what are your priorities? Let me know in the comments below, because everyone's priority is different. Step number 4, it's about resourcing. And this stage may take more time, like maybe months, and it's going to be totally worth it. And the reason behind that is because you are going to reach out to your warm water network, which are people who would be naturally supportive of you, and share with them your thoughts, share with them your priorities, share with them the skills that you have, and talk to plenty of people, at least 10, like at least 10, to get a feel for what's out there. And by speaking to 10 people, you are essentially 10xing your reach, and they become your eyes and ears on the market on what's out there. Maybe there's opportunities out there that you're not aware of that is totally aligned to the skills that you have and to your priorities. And maybe you're only an introduction away to landing your dream job, right? No one knows, but people can't help you if they don't know what you need. So generally, I would recommend at this stage in your 20s to try your hand in everything. In the sociology of work, being in your 20s is considered the exploration and establishment phase in your career. So it's a good idea to go around and try your hand at different things, get a taste of everything. And if you're not sure of what you're good at, just give it a try. There's really no harm in it. And that way you're sure to build experience, and you're sure to know that this is a path that I don't want to walk down, right? But of course, don't walk down a random path. You gotta map out the different possibilities available to you. And if you're concerned about, hey, if I keep trying different things, then won't I become a job hopper? You don't have to worry about that, because there are ways to get around it with things like, you know, a functional resume or objective statements. And these are things that I'll cover in the future. The fifth and final step is to set a target and to close the skills gap. So once you've resourced your network, you can then move towards setting a target. And by setting a target, you need to identify the industry, the functional role, the realistic level you want to enter at, and then work to close the skills gap. Because at the end of the day, you need to have prerequisite skills to get into a job. And most of the time, for an entry-level job of a career, you need to have the hard skills for that, because at the lower level, they generally want you to do grunt work, right? Only when you get to the higher levels does your soft skills really matter. And so you need to take that into account as well. So closing the skills gap by having a clear target is super important. If you follow the steps that I listed out in this video, you would have automatically aligned your skills with intrinsic motivation, such as competence, autonomy, and relatedness, right? And once you close the skills gap, you would basically have everything it takes to enter into a career that at least you know ticks all the boxes for what sparks passion. And although you may be a little bit weaker at competence, so for example, if you want to enter trade and you want to be a welder and you don't have too much competence in it, that could be built over time. But at least you've done the work to know that, hey, if I keep going down this path, it's gonna be something that I'm gonna enjoy. So I have a guide that outlines everything that I discussed in this video, along with much more details on the resources to conduct career research. So definitely check that out. Also, check out the personality test that works well with the guide. I'll put it all in the descriptions below. I also have another playlist called Career Change Advice, where I give a lot of career change advice on how to find your career path and what if you need to pivot and so on, and I'll put it in the cards above. Make sure to join my Facebook group, Career Change Advice, where you can be in the community of people who are interested in making their careers work for them. In my next video, I'm going to focus on talking about how to close the skills gap, because yes, even though you have passion and you found your career direction, if you can't enter that particular career path, it's still not very useful. So I'm going to be talking about how to close the skills gap with limited experience and how to actually build the experience to transition. So be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell for updates for when it comes out. Also, leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts on this video. Don't forget to give it a like and share it with your network if you found this valuable. Take care.